to start with, let's do the formalities, right? So why don't we go through the round of introductions? And as a part of the introduction, what I want to understand is why leadership and what does leadership mean in today's world from your perspective? So Neha, would you want to start?
All right, I am Neha Saraswat. I lead design for Intuit, couple of products for Intuit, and I also set up most of the teams at present at India for Intuit. I don't lead all of them, but I've set them up. So it did take a lot of leadership to do all of that. For me, for over like 8 to 10 years now, has been facilitation as leadership. Whether I am doing the review, as she just now mentioned, or setting up team, or trying to grow people from wherever their future they see as, to the level that they could be at, it's all facilitation. At any point in life, if you are on your own, thinking alone about your work, you get lonely. And then there is the right kind of leader who arrives and help you understand more about yourself. I think that is leadership. Of course, a lot of things are tied to business goals and getting that money in so that you can do the facilitation better. But facilitation is the key. What is leadership for me personally? I already spoke all of it, most of it. But on a day-to-day, I want to be as harsh in critique as I can be to myself and everybody. At the same time, as gentle as I can be in understanding the person who is being criticized. That's it.
Thank you. Donald, what's your take on this?
Hey, everybody. You know who I am. I'm Donald. Love the answer. For me, design leadership and leadership are the same thing, and it means two things. I really thought about this a lot over the last year and a half. Having worked in UX for so long, UX has two qualities that I think have affected me how I lead, and that is there's the user in that, so empathy is extremely important to me. I think people that know me in a leadership capacity know that I really try to get to know the people I'm working with in some form because it always gets better work and it makes the team function so, and the whole community, if it's a whole design department, so much more effective. But it's an innate in the world of UX to better understand who we're designing for, and that carries through teams. So empathy, and empathetic leadership in that style is so important. And the second thing is, with UX, it's almost always a digital solution, and that I've been doing for more than 30 years. The thing about digital is it's uniquely multidisciplinary. And certainly when I started, there were people that knew far more about the tech, the business strategy, visual design, when we had all those niche roles, content strategy, all of those things. So curation, and I had that on one of my slides, is like empathy and curation. Like, I'll never be the smartest person in the room, ever. You'll be very strong opinions and tell stories, but understanding there are strengths, and trying to get the most from people and doing it in an empathetic way. So those are the two things that I learned to kind of articulate around how do I see leadership and design leadership. Empathy and a curation type of leadership that has carried me through as the technology has changed. But thanks.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Donald. Guys, how's the Josh? Yeah, high hai.
It's building up. It's building up. Yes.
You see, I can sense it. I'm just waiting for Kirti sir to kind of come up later, and I'm waiting for his session. My name is Sachin Patil. Some of you know me from Microsoft Teams and OneDrive. The good part is our work. Those who have problems with OneDrive or Teams used to kind of still connect with me. Now I'm part of JP Morgan Chase as an executive director for design. And I really like the leadership in one-liner thing which Satya used to say. It is about creating clarity, generate energy, and deliver excellence. I haven't been able to find leadership definition beyond these 3 lines. It actually sums up everything what we have so far learned from the industry. And I have always seen the leaders. In fact, at some point, Donald was part of the same thing where me, Deepali, people were actually in the Sapient. I was a creative director in Sapient at some point. So having spent some couple of decades in this industry, now I learned actually creating clarity, generating energy, and delivering excellence is the job we have as a design leaders. Thank you.
Thank you, Sachin. My name is Akshay Gavli. I am the head of enterprise strategy for WPP Open. WPP Open is this AI-powered, our flagship AI-powered digital marketing operating system that aims to supercharge marketing life cycles for our client teams and customers, right? Leadership for me, to answer your question, is about stoicism, in the immortal words of Marcus Aurelius, and also optimism, in terms of looking at the vision for the product that you're creating. You need these two very strong pillars that define your vision, and the other is being able to stand by your vision and your teams in that sense, being able to defend that vision with the multivariate teams that you deal with in your day-to-day. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you for that. I would like to pick on that, right? So you mentioned stoicism, right? So can you back it up with one of the, any key challenge that you might have faced as a leader, and how do you go about approaching that, right? So I would want us to paint a picture about how are we handling challenges, and if you can pick on one challenge, it'll be good.
Absolutely,
share,
absolutely. It's about building the right capability within the organization, right? Finding the right talent to build those capabilities to be able to deliver to the kind of roadmaps and features and functionalities that your leadership is expecting you to do in a multivariate environment. You have got product leadership, you've got engineering teams running haywire with their product roadmaps and capabilities. It is the ability to bring the right kind of intervention in the sense of, hey, let's take a step back, understand what's the user strategy, what's the user need, what's the market need, and then marry these two together to the current roadmaps. Now, the challenge therein lies that you're trying to board a moving bus. Any design leader that joins a new organization, by the way, I've joined the new organization 2 months in, so that's where the pain is coming from. but essentially, it is about being able to give the right kind of guardrails, give the right kind of context to the roadmap that the engineering teams, the product teams are running away with. And that context is coming from the user need, right? Thereby, the ability to do the right kind of research, getting the voice of the customer into the picture, your best friends are your data capabilities and your analytics in a certain sense, right? So those are the challenges on an enterprise scale that you're dealing with. And the other side of it is to be able to staff for those challenges, right? So to get the right kind of skill set in place. Shay was talking about the right kind of designer mindset before our session, right? And that's really important because problem solving versus Figma jockeying, let's call it, is a very, very necessity, is a massive necessity today, right? The ability to problem solve will always keep you on a pedestal in terms of being able to come in, create a point of view, not only for your own teams in a safe space, but also for the other combination of squads that typically folks operate in an agile environment today. So those are the kind of challenges that on an enterprise scale leaders are facing, right? The ability to create the right vision, to be able to get the right kind of talent from the ecosystem, and then fuse all of that together and be able to deliver on those promises. Yeah.
Sure. Anybody wants to respond to the key challenges that you guys are facing today?
We almost had a T-shirt which said, "Designers propose, developers dispose." But I actually plus one to what Akshay was suggesting, and we have been facing these issues. I remember Bapu was asking in the morning about who was there in 25 years ago. It's a similar pattern I have seen from the industry. People would raise hand and ask, you talk about doing user research. What do you do when your bosses don't allow you to access users, or they don't even, let you talk to the users? We normally used to answer this by saying that, it's not their problem, it's the boss's problem, or it's that, you want to do the research, you can go ahead do it. The problem is that you want to get paid for it. And that's why you go to the boss to get the permission. You actually can find out answers on your own. So we have been dealing with research, design specific things, and developers have been part and parcel of our journey, because somebody needs to translate our ideas eventually. And co-creation is the activity which we talk about. In my head, design is not the competition, it is collaboration.
I have so many different potential answers to this question. The challenges, because there's always challenges. There's challenges in defining and defending design to my stakeholders. Always. There's the challenge of defining capabilities like research in short amounts of time and how to adapt. That's another thing that came to mind, but I'm going to bring it home. There's the challenge of new capabilities constantly. So how I led design and what I thought of it 5 years ago and 5 years before that is different than today, and it will be different 5 years from now. So adapting my tool set. But the first thing that came to mind is the challenges that I put upon myself. And it's very interesting. So I can stand here today and share what I've learned, but it's also very hard for me, at least. So I'll talk about things, and I like to talk about it openly, like imposter syndrome. And I've worked in a variety of different companies, and understanding the business of automotive, of MasterCard, of consulting, of where I am now in fintech, and understanding and leading design teams when I don't always have the answers. So I took the question in a very personal manner and what I also have learned in order to deal with those challenges is just try. Everyone here is to work, but there's times that I'm like, I'm not sure I know which direction, but I know which step to take first. So again, I'm not sure that's how you intended the question, but when I think of design leadership, and I sometimes amongst this group of designers, knowing that there's many times we doubt our own capabilities in some form compared to others. Comparison never helps. Just do your best, and I tell myself that all the time, and kind of facing that, because the skills change, the technology and the schedules change, and the business changes in some form, and you're expected to understand all of it in order to develop and deliver good design. So I love some of the points that Shay made too around criticism. That's a very specific example of sometimes she said, she's in a good place, she gives great criticism. She's in a bad place, you don't know what you're going to get. That's me. I'm a human. So managing that and managing failure and all of those things are great as long as I can be, learn from it, etc. So that's where my head went.
Oh, all right.
Embrace the discomfort, yeah?
Actually, I also thought of this question very, very differently. There are layers of this challenge as a leader of design. One challenge is that suddenly, or maybe because I'm getting old, or experienced, whatever, I am asked more, and more of the things that I always wanted to do, but I always thought that nobody is listening to me. And suddenly when I am asked to do that, I am like, oh my God, how do I supply answer to these? What is my business strategy? How am I going to disrupt this space? All of that is here, but I have not gotten the tools to translate the thinking because I have not invested into writing. I have invested into drawing all my life. And I start at whiteboard. People say, oh, you're great at whiteboarding. Yes, that's what I did all the time. So I'm great at it. But I'm not great at writing down and sending it. You write 2 long emails because that's what I do. I don't know where to stop. Anyway, less about my own criticism, but this is the first challenge that all my life I've been waiting for giving my ideas at a level, and suddenly when it is asked, I'm dumbfounded. And the second challenge is with probably people that I lead or pretend to lead, is that, and this is a statement that I made many, many years back to one of my friends, that PMs come and they think that they know everything, and designers have edge over them because designer starts from a place that, oh, I don't know, I will explore and I will know eventually. But lately, because there is so much material and people think that we are in known discipline, digital has become a known craft, that the designers come to me saying that I have this degree, I know everything. And then we have lost the edge. So those two challenges are very real, very much there, but I also think that those are opportunity. As a leader, I have those two great opportunities in front of me where I can probably change the world.
I would like to double click on that point once again, right? Because since morning we have been discussing a lot about blurring boundaries between functions and all that. How do you see that challenge coming up when you talk to your team members? Because as a designer, I've been doing things in a certain way. Now, if I go and talk to a PM, he's already coming up with some things that I would have done in the past, right? So with the tech and all the stuff, it seems to be blurring the boundaries. And
right,
what's
yeah.
your perspective on that as leaders?
I almost stepped into it in a negative sense, but let's put a positive spin to it. I recently, again, another discussion where somebody said that okay, first of all the disciplines will be one sooner or later. One of us, devs, PMs, or designers, will be there. Or one of us will play all the three roles. But who is the most capable of doing that? It's not PMs. PMs will go off soon. It's not designers as well, because we will eventually fade away, because we have, unless we are thinkers, just now Shet said that, unless we are thinkers, we have started to make ourselves redundant. It is also not developers, because they are not introducing newer languages or unless they are introducing newer languages, better ways of coding, they'll also go away. So who will remain there? Whoever thinks, whoever can introduce newness or better ways of doing their craft and others' craft will survive. I don't know if I answered the question, but this is what I think.
You did to some extent. I'm going to follow up with another question afterwards, but then before that, I would like to hear also the rest of the panelists on that. Yeah.
We now have a formula for the panel that goes kind of like a ball back and forth.
Yes.
So, great question, the blurring of boundaries, or maybe it is the redefinition of roles. I am now a Candescent. And I was sharing this with the team and thinking things through, but in defining, we are hiring across all departments. It is a company that is very much engineering-led, has been. It started as a hardware company within NCR, ATMs, and then software, et cetera. But we're now a new company under new owners and hiring, and our chief product officer that I report to, he talks about creating a company that is design-led. So I've been doing a lot of thinking around what does that mean to own or to share for the rest of the company. But it also means a redefinition of the roles. So we are we're products, we have agile teams, and I have had the question as a new leader, how do people think about design? Because in some respects, there's the old adage that I make a joke of, but I think people expect across the company just to, our teams to just UX it. Come in, wave your hands, and make magic. UX it, and kind of as a joke. And there's a lot more to design than just that, just making it look good. So I have worked, and one of the things that I've done, worked within the company, is listen, like how do people think about design? I know how I think about it, and the blurring of the lines. Is design just the veneer of what's on the screen, the UX, UI? And in engineers' minds, largely, they don't really get, I think they kind of appreciate good design, but not in everybody else's. And I've come, our head of Agile, and we now look at kind of integrated teams led by product, design, engineering, Agile. For each business line, it has all four of those things. Our head of Agile said, and this is how I've defined the roles, he says, product leads are the voice of the market. Design leads are the voice of the customer. Engineering leads are the voice of the technology. And Agile is voice of the process to bring it all together. And that was a really important distinction, particularly for UX people, because it's not just the voice of the screen for design, not just the voice of good design and UX, UI, or usability, or any of those myopic things. It's the voice of the customer. And that is how, so I've taken his quote, and I use it in my town halls and my slides saying, that's what we're building in a design-led culture, the voice of the customer. And that is far bigger and far more comprehensive. So that's how I kind of answer, and it's a work in progress, because I think product folks are very strong by nature. They're kind of leaders and have strong opinions. Some of our legacy product folks will tell you what the customers want, not allowing us to actually talk to the customers or observe them or whatever it might be. So it's great. It constantly evolves, but I love that voice of the market, voice of the customer, voice of technology, and then how to bring it all together in a very integrated and iterative way. So,
Cool, Sachin.
oh, you got your own.
I hope it works. Yeah. I have a slightly different opinion. Somebody said that if you differ from what Neha and Donald are saying, then it will be interesting. So my point is that it is discovery, design, research. All these are under actually the parts and parcels of UX, so content, accessibility. In my head, all that is not just one department's responsibility, it is a shared responsibility. So blurring those boundaries was what ought to happen. And technically, I have personally seen data and design have been blurring super fast since the AI came into the picture. The quant research have been going to them, and I've seen that it is working out very effectively, eventually helping the entire experience to happen. The days when we were actually trying to do a lot of that design thinking workshop, I don't know how many of you have seen Design Thinking is Bullshit TED Talk. There is a TED Talk called as Design Thinking is Bullshit. And my PMs have actually showed it to me, and it is true, because all that what you show there, that G healthcare thing, where you try to show that for the kids, you need a jungle theme for that CT scanning machine or MRI machine. You don't need design thinking for that. Nobody had a post-its. The designers actually have the most favorite tool, 3M post-its, and then you actually create a portfolio also with that. With, how many of you have the portfolios in which actually has those post-its which is not readable? You just want to show that you know the process because there is a 3M post-its on that. Some of you actually go behind the glass wall and I try to put a finger on that, and then from that angle you will take a photo and say, I know I was there when that process was happening. None of that is true. And PMs know about it. So when they are blurring the boundaries, they are just trying to cut short, saying, forget that, don't that, not that bullshit, please. Let's come to what actual results are. What Donald was talking in the morning about, the outcome-based design kind of a thing. And I think it is a shared responsibility. So I don't see that as a challenge. I see that as an opportunity. There is something interesting happening there. After that, I think, like I said, tech, data, we are solely banking on them right now for a lot of quant, research and analysis.
Fun fact I just learned, design thinking was actually created by 3M, the maker of Post-its, in order to sell Post-its.
That's a good one, Sachin. I just want to add to what he said, right? In terms of the and the previous challenge, that the question that you had asked, there is an element of theater when it comes to positioning your ideas.
Yeah.
In terms of pushing your agenda. Let's call it. The idea is not to push the agenda. The idea is to push design. But there is an element of theater, and if it is post-its, if it is journey maps on walls, if it is workshops that have certain outcomes already defined to a certain extent, with a collective leadership conversation happening between product, engineering, data, design, those are necessities by themselves to meander through the enterprise challenges that you face day in, day out, right? When you are able to create that theater, you are able to position your message in the right environment, right? And that's where the absorption of the message is much more quicker, right? The acceptance of the message is much faster, and is why I think that theater is relatively necessary. Not always, but we as designers tend to naturally cut across the enterprise in terms of how products are built, right? Products are built against specific capabilities that they deliver. The organization I was working before this was a bank, right? And there were products built in silos across various capabilities, be it card, be it ATMs, be it what have you, right? The enterprise software. Designers have the ability to cut across all of this because that's how we are naturally built. That's how we naturally think. We think about the user journey across all of these touch points. So creating that entire enterprise journey, a user journey, a journey map, a service blueprint, I'm using terminologies here and there, I get that. But creating all of these artifacts, A, for theater, and B, for better clarity, just to bring people together around a single totem so that people can agree, yes, this makes sense. Yes, this I didn't know. This makes the end-to-end view looks really good. That's something that's necessary, and that's something that we need to do, whether you like it or not.
I really wanted to, kudos for bringing that up. Actually, this theatrics, we have to do for some time because you do not know if the other person is able to understand what you're saying in the way that you're saying or not. And so you need those frameworks. You may still need thinking people.
Great. So building on that again, right? Because again, since this morning, we have been talking so much about the new tech and all that stuff, and then how it should help us left shift a little bit and all that. So as design managers and leaders, my question is twofold on behalf of the audience here, right? So now the winds are shifting, and then now we are expected to play more of a strategic role. From an employee engagement perspective as well as from a hiring perspective, how do you guys see this thing when it comes to scaling up your teams, upskilling your teams and all that?
Are you talking the technology specifically and the changes that we saw they're talking?
Yeah, because of the impact of that, what we're saying is we need to left shift our thinking and then get more strategic, right? How would its impact be when it comes to, as an aspiring designer, if I want to get into this, how should I position myself?
Is a couple things that I'll say to that is when I'm interviewing, we're doing a lot of that. We have a bunch of new hires here today, and we're hiring and interviewing a lot more. There's two things I look for in today's world, and we've talked about them at length today, is the candidate and the employee focused on business results or on design and quality? And there's a place for design quality, but I always ask those questions, and it gets to the point that I was trying to make this morning, hopefully it landed, around the orientation towards design is what you do, but why you're doing it is the business result, and orient yourself. And that's moving to the left. That is amazingly valuable for any designer to orient around business results and things and whatever. But the other thing I look for in employees, and certainly in candidates today, and I don't know if this is where you went with the question, the world is changing so fast, faster than maybe I realize on a day-to-day, but I do realize with AI and things. So I always ask a question: how is the work you're doing, how has it changed with AI? And it's a very open-ended question, but I always look for people that are challenging their current ways of working and thinking about experimenting and exploring. Because that says to me that the person is growth-oriented and learning-oriented, which is, we talked about it today, and Shay talked about it, I believe. It is such an important quality. It also speaks to move to the left because it means that person will learn with the technology and how the company moves, et cetera, and not just trying to apply what they were taught years ago. And so it's those two things combined that I think is really important for the employee and growth in the employee as well as for hiring.
Well said. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. Actually, when we are hiring, we know for sure that the people whom we are looking for are able to co-create, and they are not solo performers, sitting in isolation trying to create some artistic vision. These people whom we talk about are, best collaborators, and they are actually able to co-create not only with fellow designers, but also with what we call PXTD, like product, experience, tech, and data. And they can understand their language and start speaking in that language. So we have started growing beyond empathy and trying to go also getting the most authentic, reliable data, and they have kind of upgraded themselves to that capacity. So when JPMC is hiring right now, we know we have too many people, requisitions open, and a lot of work is coming from US to India with the hope that, what Donald in the morning, was talking about. We actually almost had a standing ovation for that line, that we are looking at India as design leaders, and a lot of strategic work is coming here. When we call something as strategic work, we need strategic thinkers, people who can actually, understand the picture. They can zoom out, see end to end, go into the depth, and come back and zoom in specific things. Those are the missing pieces. People are, very focused around Figma for some reason. There are conferences by that name, and I never like the conferences which is with the name. The tool name should not be associated with it. Otherwise, we would have been called as Photoshop people or Figma people or something. And I wanted, kind of people to understand that, it is a community of practice which we all have together. We are not associated with a specific tool. So we also check if while we are hiring, whether, a person understands this aspect that, there can be a change in tool set. Just remove Figma, Photoshop, everything, and ask them to design a solution. You will be surprised how many of them cannot do it because they are so equipped. They are just, so built with the tools that they want in their hand before they can start solving the problem.
Can I ask you a question about the answer? And I know we'll go down.
Yeah.
Do you see value, because I do, but I'll put it out there, I see two types of designers in a career path, and I'll still stand by orienting around business results is helpful for each, but I have seen over the years like an individual contributor path and a broader leadership path. And both are really helpful to have in an organization. Maybe not 50-50, but I have seen over the years someone who is more heads down, maybe more craft-oriented, certainly a collaborator, but maybe not to the, and then there's the broader designer that really is looking at business results and wanting to advance and wanting to lead other designers and things. And I still feel like that is valid. As you were talking, do you see that in the work that you're doing?
And I completely get your point there. And it's something which is to do with, and thank you for bringing that up. If I'm confusing it somewhere that even as an IC, as an individual contributor, you are still a collaborator. There are people in my team, I think, some of you, who has worked with me earlier knows these people who have asked me, please don't make me manager, please don't increase my salary. And only design community with right earrings, long pony, would actually try to tell me something like that. I don't see PMs or tech community ever talking like this. But it is so important that they have decided that as an individual contributor, I know what my responsibility is. When we are talking about two different career paths, which are the very standard way of looking at it, and it is really something successful in most of the industry I have worked with. As a manager, there are people who showcase that I want to lead. So when they are talking about leading, they're talking about leading other team members. But as an individual contributor, you still have to collaborate. They might not be responsible for their appraisal, they might not be responsible for making sure their career growth plan is being designed by this particular person, but as an individual contributor to the product, they are still expected to collaborate, not maybe responsible for the career growth plan of other team members. But that collaboration still works and it still goes a long way. And as an architect, we have kind of promoted some of the people as an IC, and that has worked. Even with an executive director level, you can be an IC. But there are people who choose to, like introvert and extrovert, the basic definition of those who take a lot of energy from talking to people. And there are people who are actually trying to, co-create, and those who go into the bathroom and then they get those ideas. Both of these are crafts. Both of these are important. And I consider that as equally important. There is no good or bad in this. Both are, and their individual choices are really helping me at least define my team plan going ahead.
Akshay, any thoughts to share?
Yeah, I think there are three pillars that we look at when we're looking to hire talent within the organization. One is craft, right? The ability to be able to do your day-to-day stuff. The other is measurement, in terms of being able to measure the output of the work that you're doing and is creating the right kind of impact. Now, it is not to say that the designer will sit and measure this all the time. It is to say that there are these lenses that the designer can switch on and off based on where they are in the life cycle of the product design. So be able to, whatever feature, whatever capability that's being rolled out, to be able to see the impact of the design and thereby bring in quantifiable and qualitative data to support the changes that are being introduced. But the last one is a little tricky, which is with respect to the culture, right? What kind of culture exists in the organization that you're trying to hire for? If you know what culture exists in the organization, you will be able to hire the right kind of mentally oriented people in the organization, irrespective of whether they are ICs or whether they are group contributors or what have you. Because the design maturity of an organization also is something that we need to wrap our heads around, right? There are organizations that exist that are super fast, like a fintech, like you mentioned, Donald. They want to be design first. And that's where they'll get the right kind of talent, the right kind of people within. But there are other organizations that are relatively laggards in terms of adapting design. They're still in that engineering life cycle, right? So to be able to get the right kind of talent for the right kind of culture that exists in the organization is really important. So those are the three lenses from my perspective that are good.
Neha, any words of wisdom here?
Right, I can add to it. As usual, if we go a little on tangent, it will be more interesting. So when I'm hiring, and I am hiring for my teams right now, I am looking for people who can understand that they have greater responsibilities than they had earlier, because now that AI has consumed all of the data of the universe and trained itself already, you are the people who will start, you are the humans in the loop, and whatever you will make or not make will train the AI. We have done our parts. We have made enough artifact to train the AI or get them this far. Whatever good, bad, ugly you will do here will train the future of our tools. And it is no denying that the understanding of that responsibility should be there. It does not mean that you should not have fun. You should have fun. That also need to be learned by AI. I also think that the core craft is something that is depleting over the years. And if we do not hire the right crafty people, or people who have honed or have desires to hone that craft, then we'll go down this slippery path. So those two things I really, really look for.
Well, that reinforces the fact that which we have been hearing from this morning, right? So having the right mindset, craft in place, and also cultural fit. are some of the key takeaways that we got from this question here. I would quickly like to change gears and then ask a very rapid-fire kind of question here, right? So, if you, as leaders, if you were to measure your team's success with one metric, what would that be and why?
You can start. Or Sachin maybe.
User sentiment. What's the user sentiment like, right? With respect to the product capability, with respect to the features that are being rolled out. It is a composite measure. It won't be a single unit. It's a composite measure of various capabilities that fuse together to create that metric or an OKR, whatever you want to call it. But that's something that's paramount, right? Because if you're building products and you're putting them out there in the market, there has to be someone who picks it up. So, for example, WPP Open, the platform that we have running today, there are 70,000 users on the platform today from an enterprise perspective that are using the platform in various shapes and forms. But our research shows us, and data, this is data that we've brought out, shows us that the platform is just being used for about 5 to 8 minutes on an average, which tells us that people are jumping in and out, using the the LLM capabilities of the platform to solve a point-in-time problem. And this is where design steps in and says, hold on, let's look at what the creative lifecycle looks like, end to end. How are various personas, whether they are client-facing teams, client leaders, creative leaders, using or going through the life cycle of the creative process and creating various artifacts? How then are they interacting with the platform, right? And that is where the true beauty and success of the platform will come into the picture, where people will start using it end to end and across the entire life cycle of the creative process. And thereby, we'll be able to give us reusability, we'll be able to reference the right kind of research, historical research that will inform future design decisions. All of that sitting within the platform today, which doesn't, to a certain extent, right? And those are the kind of insights that we've been able to generate. So yeah, what is the user sentiment?
User sentiment.
I'll answer and pass the mic. For my team, and because it is a design team, I started 10 years back, 2016 to be precise, to ask designer to get citations of them helping somebody and citations of them helping somebody helping them and them helping somebody. More number of citations will lead to more cohesive teams, more collaborative teams, and that has always worked. So it still remains the biggest matrix that I chase for my teams.
Such diverse answers. I'm going to further the diversity. But if you ask for one metric, and maybe one measurement doesn't always fit, but I'll tell you what my head goes to, and that's profit and profit growth. And the more I can have my design org and design projects and the specific designers be oriented, because everybody in an organization values profit. And if you ask me the question, and people did, how do you create a design-led organization where design is part of the culture? They've done that in the past, and I do that through sales. If you can have design influence sales, everybody values everybody, product people, technologists, senior leaders. So that is where the utmost value is, and I feel like in the design world it can be an ugly thing, but the more I can have my teams look at, and profit growth can be cost reduction. These are the activities I used to do, and now they can do it self-service, or it can be, this is how our product is gaining new customers, or it can be even NPS, where users of a mobile app are saying, this mobile app is so good, I would likely recommend the brand to others. Those are all metrics that are related towards such the core of the business. And to coin what I heard this morning, like selling is so important. But it strengthens the value of design. It strengthens the value of the designer in that form. And that's where my head goes. And I love the others, but it's very different than the other answers.
Sure.
It sounded like a very Sindhi answer for somebody. For me, it is I'm sorry, the Sindhi technically, you saw the girl there. You can meet them later. So for me, the metrics would be just a trust. If it is just a single metrics. And I know, there are some 7 factors with which we actually build that entire things to kind of measure the trust, if I can, because I'm in a bank. And we, not only for the bank or for, even when I was building Microsoft Teams or OneDrive, it's also the trust, because of which that your data is safe or, your information is safe, or how do you communicate that? And, my entire path, like 25 years plus, even when building the teams, I have applied human-centered methods. And I have evolved to a stage where, if you really want to connect with your team, just simply apply human-centered philosophies and it will still work. Just understand what that person is looking for. And even there, it is exactly same metrics. Trust. If you trust your team and they trust you, you're winning. And eventually all this is way beyond just the money is what I think. You establish that trust, just think about anything which you are actually trying to use today. If you trust, it will work, like your vehicle maybe you buy. Or because I'm working for physical as well as digital, both designs. So we call it phygital. There is no such English word, we just involved it. So that pattern is actually, again, whichever way you go, it's the trust. You go to your specific app or specific product with certain amount of trust. If I can just measure that percentage, that's the metrics I would go with.
Great. I would like to now open the platform for audience to ask any questions that you might have. Mics, please.
Good evening. My name is Prithvi. Thank you for the wonderful session. And the one point I wanted to reflect on is clearly thinking designers are needed. And definitely strategic thinking is going to evolve because mostly the basic designs and the time we have been spending in pixel pushing might be supported by AI. But still, as a designer, you have to oversee at a 60,000 feet level, right? Now, one way of strategic thinking is, yes, I look at the products from a strategy standpoint. Another is holistically as a business, as a system, and as a partner in the triad, right? Or the quad, however the industry takes it. I wanted to understand, in line with one of the comments made by Sachin, that strategic thinking is coming to India. And I think Donald also made it in the morning, made a point that India is going to be the design center. So ideally, the strategy is when we are able to contribute to the business vision. And beyond that, if we are able to contribute in deciding the roadmap, sitting with the business leaders, then after the roadmap being designed, we take the strategy for the product. So there are different levels in strategy again. So which level of strategy do we see the industry, design industry now is happening broadly in India? And how quickly do we see this evolving to the ideal strategic level?
So good question, and thank you. The way I said that it is beyond empathy, we talk about data as well, the authentic patterns and the biases in AI, we talk about that level of strategy as well. We have a huge responsibility to make sure that, when we define something, we are feeding in our information, our data to the systems, I'll give you one very aha moment of what I just recently faced. There was two different examples. One, somebody had an argument with the friend, and she decided to copy paste that entire chat to the chat GPT and ask what could be the winning argument. And you'll be surprised, it actually broke their relationship because ChatGPT was smarter to kind of figure out what was happening, right? And then the second instance I saw is husband and wife actually were fighting over it, and one of them decided that I will actually use ChatGPT to make sure that we are not breaking up at least. What could be the argument which actually will help? How can I communicate or how can I convince my point? And that actually gave a very right answer, which helped at least that couple from getting divorced. So it is us, who are feeding in, like what we call garbage in, garbage out. You feed in wrong things and you'll get wrong answers, right? So it's a similar patterns I have seen in the strategy also. Now, when you go by the books of what I have learned, right next to Microsoft, there is this ISB, right? So there are some of us who have also done PMP, some of us are already MBA. So they have figured out certain patterns. They also know that, with the help of AI tools, now we can actually get certain research questions answered, certain strategic questions answered and all stuff. As far as we as a quad or triad, are you from Microsoft by any chance?
No, I work as a principal design manager at DE Shaw.
Okay. So, because triads are the words which they normally use in Microsoft. So, technically, the strategic decisions which we get here are based on our understanding of how we perceive this entire new changes happening, because most of them are kind of now asking us to create agentic, tools or designs. The agents which we are building right now are helping us shape up the next patterns, and those are the strategic thinkings. When it comes to money, when it comes to doing the market, research, we have been, kind of outsourcing it to the people who are actually located in those fields. I mean, employees itself, but then we know that this is something which we get, we need an input from them. But what core as a designer, what we get to see is the entire process, how does it work currently, and what pieces of it will need agents of AI or certain tools to be created or designed. So that's how we have been designing this, and that's how we have been kind of building more responsibly than earlier. So strategy as a book definition has also kind of evolved along with AI.
Thank you.
So it's more and more becoming like a tandem rather than saying that who is the driver, who is the pillion kind of thing. I also wanted to bring another point here, that when we were designing, let's say 5 years back, and we were creating those double diamonds, each one of us was pulling the diamond or a vertex of the diamond in one direction, right? Because there were so many of us. And we forgot that it always brought diverse perspective in, and even if somebody was pulling it in one direction, sometimes that direction was something that we all were convinced about, and then the diamond was skewed, but we were okay with that skewed diamond. Similarly, there is another player which is coming in, and we are calling it unbiased, but it is highly biased with our historical evidences or whatever. Huh? Oh, all right. Okay, time to shut up. Or whatever we were feeding in earlier. So we have to be very, very well aware of that this diamond is getting skewed, and we have to get either agree with awareness or skew it in another direction. So prompt it that way.
Hi.
Go ahead. Question?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Tej, and I've been designing experiences for leaders for the past couple of years, and now I'm just sitting with questions. So one of the questions that I have is that so much of the experiences rely on data, and when we speak to people that are at the leadership, they mention culture. And one of the hardest things is to model culture, in my view. And time and again, we talk about, even in today's conversation, we are trying to understand trust between the teams. Well, the dimensions of trust, they are still a question mark. I don't understand what are the things that to look for when you say trust between teams. And the reason why I'm asking this question is that this trust is going to get extrapolated or extrapolated to agentic systems. Beyond guardrails, how do we model trust? Or if trust is part of culture, how do we model culture?
Interesting question.
It's an interesting question. I know, just one liner for you. I know it's like overthinking wala stuff lag raha tha, so I thought I'll talk to you about it. Human being is not what we are solving for. Being human is what we are solving for.
That's great. I was just going to say, I love the question, culture and trust. And I do think from a leadership standpoint, it's the theme of the conference, it's the theme of this panel, you have to model it. And I think you said in your question, when you say trust me, I can't ever say that because I can't ask for trust, you have to earn it. And I think I've learned, and I have also worked in some places, they're on my resume, I'll leave the names out, but it's virtually every one of them, where we had to build trust within design because it had been so hammered and reduced, et cetera, and you had to change the culture. So one of the things that I feel like I've learned, but I've just taken it with me, is I try to model the person that I want to help change the culture, and that means I share. And I get feedback like, oh, you share things that I would never expect, or no other leader at General Motors has ever shared. There, I dropped a name. No other leader at, and so even my answer to one of the questions before around feeling like an imposter and the issues that I put upon myself, that's a choice. I could answer it around some of the other challenges with design, but I'd rather be personal because once I'm personal, it opens up everyone else to feel a little bit more open and create what GM called psychological safety, which increases the trust that's there. So important for design teams. And I just feel like I've learned that over the years, so I kind of, I guess, maybe model the way, but I don't want to say I'm an overshare, but I will put things out there because it creates a different relationship that I think really helps for higher performing teams. Love the question.
Actually, yes. And I had absolutely same answer, but I also wanted to kind of bring another angle to it because transparency being the primary or keystone to trust, oversharing can kill it. And I've seen it, I've done it, I failed because I overshared. As a leader, you would eventually learn the difference between when you're building trust and when you're losing the sense of security that they had. And I have fallen for it 100 times. I'm still learning.
So true.
And I agree with what you said, right? Balanced oversharing probably is what you want to go for. And it becomes that much more complicated in globally distributed teams that we operate in nowadays, right? Like, teams are operating out of US, out of Europe, out of here, and everybody's coming on. The overlap typically with multivariate teams working on a single product or a single capability is literally 2 hours every day, or maybe less than that, right? And thereby, balanced oversharing will create a better environment for creating that trust.
We are at time. I just have one last question, rapid fire again. So this is for the aspiring leaders out there. The future of UX leadership will require us to fill in the blank. The future of UX leadership will require us to
I'm not able to say that word. Whatever, ourselves all the time.
I'll say constant evolution, constantly rethinking and evolution.
constant evolution. You said disruption, is it? Okay.
Okay, yeah, you could say it.
You want to try once more?
No, that is not allowing me.
Only one word.
Only one word. Evolution.
Evolution, yeah, actually.
Can I repeat evolution? No, it's, I think, embracing the new technology. Embracing AI.
Did Sachin answer? Did Sachin answer?
I did, yeah.
You did? All right.